join us in this meeting today, Lord, and direct us and guide our paths as we make the best decisions for our city on this city meeting. We praise you and thank you for this day, and it's in Jesus' name we pray.
when I looked at this from a staff perspective, I absolutely agree. There was some great components here. I think the staff report, I wanted to remain in the guidance because this is something that helps and I didn't feel like we were right to me to give a really strong recommendation and to look at this very from all angles and really allow that to give you all that opportunity. The way that I see it is that I think this has really, really great components to it. The cleaner scheme, some of the logo, I think it's something that we can incorporate, but just like you said, a slight discussion. Let's not use that because there's a lot of work that went into that. Which the vendors are component as well, that we could potentially some I'm gonna do it for different components of it. Level, then that would be kind of my next step, and that's what I saw in the next week. Based on what we went over today, what was decided, that next step that we have to go over the implementation, maybe different options we have based off of what I'm hearing today. Thus far, of course, we're going to be, but potentially that's what that would look like and it's and what you can do this and forward because I think I love through this in those components that make this like but I would say I will how to do staff forward. But I would say for today, I would love to do that for the next meeting, just to provide more of that. So I guess I want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, and if I may clarify, I didn't mean for this meeting, I mean for the future, once we have direction here, when it's time. So absolutely, no, this is appropriate for today.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Will you be able to reach out to Annette Muldrow? As far as I know, they're still in business.
I
Okay.
have not heard that.
Okay. Okay.
And certainly we have heard from other.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just didn't know, since they did the original plan as far as a refresh is concerned, I don't know what the cost. So I think again, yes, as we start, I think it's just important that we finally start marketing and promoting the city and use the tools we already have to move forward into the next phase.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion direction, consideration of changing CRA meeting frequency.
Last time we were here, constantly as we're trying to meet the it does appear that we do need to meet more frequently than just having that also. So we just like
So the choices are possible options, not necessarily all the options were in our packet. And what are any, does anybody have a thought, Commissioner Campbell? Start that way instead.
I'm open. I just realized the need because we miss out on a lot of things that come to us either too late or it comes to us as an emergency. And it's not giving us the proper time to really vent or address some of the concerns that staff. So I'm open to whatever. I just want us to have the conversation to see how we want to.
Your thoughts?
Let me ponder on that.
You ponder, Commissioner Boyle. Okay. Ms. Jackson. Okay.
Yes, I'm open to monthly.
Yes. Okay. And so if we, and I'm open to monthly as well, because I think, yes, there's going to continue to be more happening in the CRA districts and particularly in further on in the agenda, we discuss again the concept of another CRA district. So I think we do need to meet monthly. The question is when, like we meet now as we do on a Monday, or do we connect it as was one of the suggestions to just prior to a commission meeting, which would have to be the second meeting because the first meeting we have school kids. So again, I think we need to give direction at some point and make, even if we're saying it will start in September, for example, since people may have plans for the summer. But I think we've heard from everybody, well, at least from 4 of us that we would like to see it happen monthly.
You mentioned the school meeting.
Hmm?
You mentioned the school meeting.
I mentioned the student of the month, student of the month. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Student of the month, which is the first, before the first meeting of the month. once school is back in session. So obviously we can't schedule it for before the first meeting of the month. It would have to be before the second. All of us have spoken, but now I'm saying recommendations, direction.
Oh, so ideally, I would love to see it before the second, monthly, commission meeting. However, I do want to yield to my colleagues to have to come from possible work or other commitments. So that's why I'm flexible, but I do want to yield.
I think, I should be open to just prior to, because again, I want to take in consideration staff, and their commitment to not having to think out later to accommodate, a meeting. So I, let me make my statement, please. I'm taking those things in consideration because again, everyone says we're fine, but at some point we have to learn how to have that balance, and I'm learning how to have that balance. So if you don't know how to balance, I'm going to help you now. So I would be open to having it just before your meeting, so that day, I prefer that day to be longer than to have multiple long days throughout the month.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I have a business, but I'm used to adjusting the schedule to accommodate. I make a commitment to this, so that's just the way it is. Anybody else have any thoughts? So we have 3 in favor of having a monthly meeting prior to the second commission meeting of the month. Do you want to make a motion?
I move that we conduct CRA meetings monthly prior to the second commission meeting of the month, beginning at, do I need to say a time? 5 p.m. Beginning in September.
Anybody, doing this second? Does anybody else have any further discussion on this topic?
Could it be 30 minutes? It have to be an hour?
I don't think 30 is enough time. Oh, I think we have to at least plan for 15. I mean, for an hour rather versus 30. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are, but I think we need to at least plan for an hour.
And I would think having meetings more frequently, our agenda could potentially be
Streamlined.
more streamlined. That's what I'm thinking.
So, I mean, yes, so are you thinking 5:30-ish instead? I just think we might be rushing some discussions if we have it at 5:30.
Can we, yeah.
Well, it's just, it could be somewhat of a challenge just for me. So that's all. Just trying to juggle 2 different things that I have going on. Prior to the meetings, usually 6 o'clock. I stretch it, getting here for regular meetings, but. I just was asking, could it be
Yeah. and then
30 minutes? I mean, our agenda here is not that large, we could. We're adding another meeting and we can handle it accordingly, but it's okay. I mean, whatever, we join it.
Anybody else have any thoughts about a half hour versus an hour time? I just don't want anybody to feel rushed, and if we have extended discussions, we also don't want to run into the other meeting if we have a discussion, so. Again, anybody else? So we have a
Discussion, I want to discuss it.
Yeah, that's fine. So we have a motion a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition?
Nay.
One name. Update and discussion on finding a necessity study potential CRA boundary expansion on your district designation.
I'm going to have this, Logan to speak about it more thoroughly, and basically, it's basically for a board and with us to start the study for an additional district, and, because of the legislative environment. Even though consultants said, no. That's what it's not. So we want to bring it back, so.
Yes, Ms. Grace said is correct. There was legislation during this session. There were 2 bills that were introduced that would significantly affect CRAs. part of that would be creating CRA districts, so our consultants asked us to do this, which we've done. Now we're revisiting it with the legislative environment now solved. We're asking if you'd like to consider that. So continuing the finding of necessity would allow them to evaluate whether there is a statutory basis of expanding CRA district, which basically means conditions of wanted light and that. And you'll see there is a map of what data they're looking for, part of that. So basically, the finding of necessity is the first step. Then clear step number 2 would be incorporating district community development plan update. And update outlines role, projects, that's clear business guidelines. It's time for that. So there are options here that we saw. One, finding a necessity, also the community development plan, and we over $100,000 for that. And for the focus, just updating the community development plan, just because there's been, I think this staff has every opportunity to align with CRA strategy. Either with updated plan, after I see the community, so I think it's pretty, but that are for this staff office over with the finding of necessity of this.
Thoughts? Anybody have anything? So we can provide a recommendation. Go ahead, Mr. Bond.
Well, from the extension, if it was extended or expanded, I mean, you get an immediate benefit as it relates to the new areas that's coming on now. I don't know if it's a freeze as it relates to the new areas coming on with the business mix, with new business and residential areas that's added. So I think, I guess if my memory serves me correctly, I think it might be that whatever the millage rate is and whatever the improvements to that area is, the new area would not be able to benefit from that until that portion of the funds get built up. But the existing areas could continue to benefit as it was prior. So that's what I'm understanding for this particular.
Yes.
So, and I think that's the least resistance as it relates to rather than trying to create a whole new CRA district. So those were the two things that we had, and I think that would probably be better.
Yes.
in my opinion.
We don't know where the legislature's going in the future, but our current CRA districts sunset in 2043 without any ability to renewal. We've used both of those. That will mean the new district will sunset as well, and so it will be a very brief. We will have a total of 60 years for the existing CRA districts in 2043. A new one will sunset with that, so they will lose a lot of that momentum they're just getting. That's my concern.
What we have there already, you have from the riverfront to 4.5 Street. That district is already benefiting. I mean, there's a few things that need to be done in the area, but if you can continue to improve the areas, the expanded area, you want to remove the blight. And so I think, even with that going into 2043, that's a number of years from now to be able to do that. And so I think it's something that we ought to consider as a board.
And I think I'm all in favor of a new CRA district. I'm not sure merging it with the existing is the way to go. That's all I'm saying that. And also it goes to 11th Street, not to Fork. From Madison to Laurel Road.
Man, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna make one statement. One thing to note based off what our consultant shared with us is that if the findings that you continue, it would be for the whole district, but you'll see it in the blue. But you can choose to only extend it 1 block or 2 block, or 2 blocks, it wouldn't have to be for the entire area. I just wanted to note that. So I think that was important to know. If you did decide to make things.
So it could go from Fifth Street to Seventh Street. That's two blocks. I'm just asking.
That has, it's really up to the this discretion. When I put in stuff, it was done, they can confirm. Up to the- Like just-
So you're saying to the east, I mean, because it goes to 11th Street as far, I mean, to the west, it goes to
Yeah.
11th Street. So you're saying to the north, it will go further out from Madison. So, because currently the district goes to 11th. But and the border ends on the east on Madison and, I mean, on the north in Madison rather, and then on the south in Morris. How?
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Clarity. You said it went to 11,
Goes to the CRA district goes,
the TIF or the
The central business district.
central business tip goes to 11,
north 11?
correct.
So, confused as to, as it related to, the road improvements that stop at Fourth and a Half. And all of the other improvements, so. That's,
But it's gonna be again, Madison, North 11th for the central business tip.
right, but what I'm saying is, we got north, you got the Fifth, Sixth, and all the way out. And so, that takes me back to when we were doing, a number of the improvements. We started in the North Historic District, to improve the infrastructure, the water lines and everything. And when we got to Fourth and a Half, it jumped over to the Central Business District and then the South Historic District.
Because the north tip does end. at Fifth. Yes,
The North Historic.
central business ends at North 11th.
Okay.
Up to Madison.
Okay, I just wanted to be.
That's just for clarity.
Right,
So
just.
if you look at the map.
Right.
Yeah. And the same, the south ends at, Trail South 9 area. But again, the central goes to 11.
Right.
Question, can you really explain how far this new study will take the districts out?
Yes, so that's what you see in the blue outline.
Yes.
Could you give us a label or names? Cause
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it looks like we're fit till Highway 17. Here.
Fifth and 17 don't run parallel. 17 is not here.
No,
Let's go this way.
right now it is. So we extended that way to the north,
How far out is it now?
way out.
So.
Purpley blue. So he's supposed to come on the street.
Yes. It's gonna be not the dotted line, but if you look at the key
A solid
on
blue.
page 126, on the key, it says the blue solid line is the updated line.
That's where.
Right.
So where it says Outer Street,
Right up, yeah.
which is about Peter Street up to behind McDonald's, basically.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The CRA districts will sunset in 2043 or 2039, so.
2043,
At this point.
the existing CRA.
Yeah, so we're living in 2025. So we'll be 18 years. And they take that first year, so once it gets approved, it's a base year is established. And then. Beyond that base year.
In the recommended area, it includes a substantial amount of public housing. How does that tie in, or how is that affected, or does it improve it? Like, what are the benefits? Because there are a large, substantial amount of public housing within that area.
That's a great question. What I can say from my knowledge is that because of the funds, so if I may start a little bit with, it will take 10 years based on the consultant. it would take 10 years for it to actually a large enough fund to start making those improvements. So I'm thinking that's the fund is really money out there. Then any that projects that have to be such as redevelopment, they would have to the other districts. That's just the different things that they would benefit those areas. So any infrastructure events for things like that, development, same thing on the little different other districts to be able to do there, but on
Go ahead, Commissioner Barnes.
I might be able to speak to it a little bit, but I think what public housing is federal, that's all federal, and they don't pay any taxes. So they can't, they wouldn't be eligible to partake in any of the improvements as it relates to a CRA district. So those areas would probably be carved out in terms of being, from a standpoint of taxes, because they don't, it's federal.
So, I mean, if that, I mean, that being the case,
Right.
that would change.
They will have,
Yeah, it would literally,
change.
they would change substantially.
It would change substantially, and the only way the real revenue is gonna come from Reed Street, and like when the business is on Reed Street, it's really going to be the revenue base for that district. If it's because the most residential even.
Right. Well, actually, I would like to see the actual picture versus what we have here, because there's no taxes that we're gonna receive from the federal government. It looks like it's a lot, from here, it looked like we're gonna capture a lot of tax, but we won't. So, could we get the true picture? I mean, brought back to us so that we actually will see, and you could, I mean, kind of like have an estimate, instead of spending this kind of money. I don't think we got to that point here, because I have something to say about, to continue or not to continue first. But, I would like to see a clear picture, not including those properties.
Yes.
There's a lot of properties on the north side of there.
I agree.
And possibly, we're going that far out, capturing the Baileyville area that we talked about before when it started. As far as annexing in the city, and they would also be able to be in one of those TIF districts, even though, we don't know what's gonna happen with legislative session, and that kind of makes it hard to even make this decision right there. Throwing good money after that, you know what's gonna happen. But we need to be very cautious with that, because both services won't kill us anything if, in fact, they go with the CRA.
You're absolutely right on that. I'm so sorry.
So, excuse me, I'd like to get clarification. So we know this is dependent upon legislative action, which right now is not likely to increase the time for CRAs. The existing ends in 2043. We've already exhausted all extensions possible for there, so that's a drop dead date. If we do add in or increase the district, that new district will have 18 years maximum, which we've heard. The consultant said it takes approximately 10 years to get enough funds to fund that district. So that leaves about 8 years. I just want to put this in perspective. Leaves about 8 years, and that's considering time is still moving. So that's at this point in time. So even if it takes much longer, we're still talking about a decreased amount of children. So I just want to put that point in. So it's potentially 7, and let me clarify the point, because so we're talking potentially about 7 years to do some potential projects on potential income of an area that we now know excludes a major portion of it. Now, what I don't know is what you mentioned, Commissioner Jones, about 50%, if we add Baileyville or additional areas but that area is going to be annexed in, because currently it's not even in the city.
Right.
So I'm just saying there are a lot of potentials here that we're talking about. And so Just want to make sure I got that right.
Yes.
think
And that
y'all
is
know
the
the answer.
reality now.
I just think that,
I think we know how to answer.
I think, Commissioner Jones, the request sums it up, because even if I look at this, I'm not in favor. Simply because this, I don't see the benefits, because again, when you think about, only thing outside of the Reed Street corridor, you have on Madison Street, from Madison Street over all the way up until Ocean Street, that's all public housing for the majority part of it. And so I just don't see, if they're not gonna reap the benefits or can't reap the benefits, I don't see the point of us extending that. And especially if there's already a 10-year phase to build up, I don't foresee it unless they do away with those, public housing, and which I don't foresee that, it's not gonna benefit.
My question is, what is the cost? I think there was a grant, was it 100% funded? Right, was it 100% funded?
There's no grant to go.
Okay, because
It's city funds completely.
okay. Yeah, with that being said, yeah, I thought I thought it was a grant that was 100% funded.
No grant at all.
So-
So you cannot, afford this with your.
Okay.
So this, because with the rules of CRA, you spend the money.
Okay.
Because the money is spent. Yeah, we have to be obviously, our city general fund, but. That.
So at this point, it sounds like, and I don't know if we want to take a vote on this, that we're not in favor of expansion and or creation of new CRA district.
I might could give some form of, okay, what is the cost benefit of doing it or not doing it? I mean, so that would be the question from a market analysis standpoint, looking at what would be the benefit from a financial standpoint? Or is it something that the city should not pursue? And I think, I wouldn't be able to answer that question without answering from people.
The work on my life, that's exactly what I was going to, I feel that it should be a little maybe further explored, because going down Reed Street, benefited, a lot of potential businesses. I understand they only have the 8 years, but there's some possible potential out there, so I have to agree.
If it's a separate district at this point in time, unless the legislature changes things, it would be 30 years at this point. Right. So they could have a full 30 years as long as it's not in addition to the existing CRA. We have to separate the CRA district. So that leaves that possibility.
And two, they've been trying to,
Do away with-
just do away with the CRAs for years. And so, we don't wanna, go with what is threat, because we don't know how real the threat is. But if there's some potential, if there's a possibility, and we can only know if we get the market analysis to be able to say, hey, is this something worth pursuing from a return on this investment? If we invest this money, what's the potential? And we just going based off of feeling, we can potentially be losing out on it.
I don't know if it's a feeling, but I also don't know what the cost is. I'm not opposed to a market analysis necessarily, but what is the cost to that as well? And then on top of that, if to cost out going forward with this, I don't think any of us are experts, but I think we can all look at the tax revenue generated from that area. And other than the businesses on Reed, it's pretty limited.
But when you look at Reed, you look at Reed and all the businesses along Reed from that area, it's pretty nice stuff. You got a lot of businesses along there
If you would allow us, like, we can look at, we can try to calculate the possible revenue that would be generated from a tip perspective.
Yeah, I like to see.
For the area that will be covered for that reason at least.
Right, I
And
like,
that's on both sides, it's not one side.
yes, I like the quantitative analysis.
Do the math I can.
Yes, that will tell the story.
Well, give us at least some kind of cost versus benefit, you know.
I would like to also mention that I would like the opportunity to, if this item is continued. I think it could be a good opportunity to bring in our consultants. They've already put in quite a bit of work. And I think they would be a little bit more equipped than I am to answer these questions since they have extensive experiences working with cities that much like ours and have CRA finding necessities. I can speak to them about what we discussed today and see if they can provide this information. Because like I said, they've done a lot of work already. And I'm sure this is a lot of what we're discussing today. And even if we're deciding to move forward, we still own all the work they've already done. So I think it would be great to with decision makings.
That's
Well-
fine. And you had oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You got a second portion to your presentation, a question as to whether we are in favor of updating the CRA plan that was developed in 2021. So as a separate thing. Go ahead, Commissioner Jones, because we have to discuss.
Boss got that quick. Go ahead.
Forgot?
Here's the question. The question I had was, what would be the result if we just wait to see what the legislature said?
So if we're speaking about this legislative session, that is, I have even if you about that in this pocket, I absolutely found. So the legislation that I discussed at the last meeting, both those done. So we're more so thinking about what can happen next session. So the bills that are going to affect us, nothing happens, legislation stays the same. So it'd be more so thinking about the future. As we know, every 2 years they like to see what they can do. So you never know. Back in 2019, they did a very large reform. And I'm gonna saw what the legislation is. One of them, notion was terminated. They were willing to give anything. So that was the same of just terminating altogether. That one didn't pass. The other one allowed flexibility. Think of a reform bill that didn't pass either. So it's very up in the air what can happen in the future, but I can say with this session, nothing has it. But it's next level. They goes back into the current form that they left them in, so there's more receptive into. For that.
In regards to the second portion of Ms. Odom's part of the discussion about updating the CRA plan. Is that something we are in favor of, interested in?
So do we want to vote on what we just discussed? As far as paying the money to continue or
I
not?
thought that, well, yeah, I mean, I think,
Did you-
yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion, it was whether to do that or the markets. And then, yeah, I thought Ms. Carter was going to, or the staff are gonna work on, and the company, the
Yes.
consultants, bringing that data back to us.
So
we're not-
We're carving that out, carving out.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're gonna come back
What
with
that
the
looks like in terms of
cost versus
possible
benefit.
future revenue for the CRA.
cost versus benefit analysis, but however. And we'll come back with that information. And as of this moment, they have been paused. We do owe them $200.
And so we're still paused in the finding of necessity piece, but we're looking for more data. Yeah. Is that okay with everybody?
No, I'm still running.
Okay, yeah. And then as far as the CRA plan, anybody have any thoughts on that, updating the CRA plan?
Almost essential.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Okay. When we come back, we'll be able to address it more.
Okay. Okay. City manager, CRI coordinate verbal update.
That, here's items, thank John. And Gordy brought up to speed about that. We are moving along much better than we've ever been done in the past. Engineers are working aggressively with us. There are two items that, just want to remind everyone about the electrical issue. And, it's not FBO, it's electricity. Being given to the areas. The initial quote or estimate that we received was for 400, I think 14,000 or something like that. And, we also have, 404,000. However, Public Works, Director, because his prior experience is, electrician, he was able to work with them, identify some of the outlets that they were not aware of. So there's a very good possibility that that would be lowered by 150,000. The bump outs, to add that on to the street, they will cost us 515,000. So, what we're doing from a budgetary perspective, staff and I have been working together really carefully to figure out how to impact next year's budget. Because the bulk of the costs are going to be experienced in next year's budget. We will be carrying forward, 1 million. Say, we'll be carrying forward about 1,700,000 from this fiscal year towards next year. We will need an additional anywhere from 400 to 650,000. So right at this moment, I'm already looking at the funding sources. CRA may be able to give an additional 100,000 towards the streetscape project. The balance of it, we will be able to finance it based upon my assessment today from the better place. So what I'm really saying is we are moving forward. Moving forward means that we will have the bump outs and we will also deal with the issue of the electricity.
Anybody have any questions?
So that's on the St. John's Avenue streetscape. As relates to the Tillman House rehabilitation. Oh, are you showing the pictures of, is that pictures of streetscape?
It's a rendering.
That's
Yeah.
maybe the bump outs, we received those renderings. So
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
have them sooner.
Yeah, we didn't have to until then.
The bump outs? What up bump out?
Yes.
There, we now have pictures of how the bump outs. look.
Yeah, that's what I wanna know. I know what.
So the bump out is that thing there on the side.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Those are the bumps.
So electrical, those like electrical islands where the outlets are there or what? I mean,
I think the intent of bump outs is, they call it traffic calming, I believe. Electricity is just plain electricity. There goes here.
Yeah, there's no electricity in those pump outs. There's plants and they're designed to deter people from speeding. It's something to go around looking through. I mean, they're very.
and we're gonna spend $500,000 doing that?
I don't.
It's also an aesthetic thing as well. And Commissioner Campbell's worked with
515,000.
aesthetics in the past, and it is an appearance aesthetic thing. As long as they're maintained.
And one other thing I like to bring up, it's gonna decrease parking because the guys are gonna take the parking. Okay, even though people. Okay,
Yeah, and because what happened, as soon as it happened, commission, we took all the parking away. So that's why it's good to know what we're putting there. That's why actually what a bump out is.
Right.
And so seeing it, I'm opposed to that. Aesthetics and what Commissioner Campbell, those trees with those nice buds, that looks really nice. I think that's aesthetics. I guess I'm wrong. I don't know.
That's the trees that they're gonna have.
Those are the actual trees.
What are you looking for? I said, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
To tell y'all, the aesthetics that I was speaking of was not necessarily the streetscapes. It was the buildings that we have, bringing them up to look to par. Those were the aesthetically pleasing things that I was referring.
I think also if you want this to not be just open to vehicular traffic, but also cyclists, the bump outs serve a purpose again in slowing traffic down to make it a road that's user friendly to all. There is a lot of parking. What we've never really had or produced is a map of all the parking, public and private, that's allowed in the city. You may have to walk when you go to St. Augustine, you walk. You may have to walk. You may not be able to park always in front of the building, but and maybe we don't need as many bump outs, but I think they're important. Go ahead.
So, and so my plan today was just simply give you an update that we finally
Yeah.
do have a cost factor for the bump outs, because we never had that before. But I also think it's appropriate too, I believe what he had said was that he would give us, we already know the cost of doing the streetscape, as you all have requested. But I guess at some point very soon, maybe the next one, you do need to vote on whether or not you want him to put these bump outs in, because as you can see, the cost is 515,000. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to fix that. Okay, and we're planning for that as well.
And those bump outs are in the existing plan that I saw I saw an item. Yeah, in the original plan. So I know I'm talking out of both sides. I'm just stating the obvious, but I'm also stating that it's been in the plan.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
They took it, the reason why it came out of the plan, because our administration was trying their best to bring the cost of the project in line with the funding sources from the grant.
Right.
So having that.
And I think that we should at least be in line with that, because that haven't changed. That's sort of what we're trying to do, improvement, but also fiscal responsibility, saying, hey, listen, can we do without that? And also accommodate the merchants when they request the parking and additional parking. So what we're doing is, I think, somebody was forward thinking when he was up here and he made that decision. So I mean, you guys were on the board, on the commission, and I think that now we're going back and revisiting what they had already revised.
Right.
And the revision is almost like Commissioner Campbell say, okay, it is here. There's some nice things in this plan. So to implement it going forward, I think it might have been at one point very important to have bump outs. I can't see the importance, but at this point in time, I think I think parking would be number one priority, and secondly, if it's streetscaping, and traffic, I thought we got the, I'm sorry, traffic diverting, what you said was, traffic calming devices. If we wanted that, we would put roundabouts out there, could have roundabouts and then have, more parking, but you can clearly see it's taken out, that look like 1, 2, 3, 4 spots at least right there in one block.
And I'm not, well, Commissioner Davis has said, I will go last, because you want to say something? Okay. Commissioner Baum, did you have something to say something? Excuse me.
No,
I'm not, yeah, and Ms. Odom wants to, and then go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear up just a few things. First was the business owners were the ones that expressed the line of things. That's for them. From business, that's where we give them 2 days. We have just an informal meeting here, very informal, just provided them.
How many people was here?
Just maybe 20, 30.
Right.
They came, we let them ask as many questions as they liked to peers. And so they said, we would like to see comments and we would like to keep review. I spoke with parents, it was me as well, that they reassured me that is that space, we in fact would be spots based on conversation.
And that was what I was gonna say, as a downtown business owner, traffic flow